All right, how's everybody doing today? Thought I'd pop in for a little Memorial Day stream. Um, I had that actual wallpapers from me and my family just got back from camping, and it was a bit rainy and hot. As a Texas Memorial Day camping, I don't recommend. But my wife loves camping, and since we've been cooped up for a couple months now, I couldn't tell her no. So yeah, on that actual thumbnail, and actually I'll pull it up on my big screen here down on the bottom, and you guys can see this a little bit. I actually bought the biggest tarp they had at the store and did like this janky overhead thing just to kind of protect the tents because I knew it was going to storm really bad. But all this ended up raining out and I got completely soaked. It was like going to the water park from hell when we when we actually brought all these tents up, and I had to pack all this while it was just downpouring this morning. And it got a really good story out of it. But man, I don't recommend camping Memorial Day weekend. At least when there's rain in the forecast, and it was really hot. A couple of those nights, it was about 100 Fahrenheit, or close to. It was about mid 90s Fahrenheit with about 100% humidity. And sleeping in that was been a bit brutal. So if I slip up in today's stream, just know I'm coming off a weekend of that right down there. And yeah, so I'm a little bit loopy, but I'm going to get to a lot of the questions in chat here and go over just some basic stuff. It's been a little bit since my last live stream, and I want to live stream at least once a month on YouTube. I do live stream every two times a week over on Twitch, and I'll probably do a short stream here and then maybe carry over on Twitch if you guys want to continue the party after our YouTube live stream here. So with that, let's get to some questions. I've been in chat a little bit, kind of just talking to some folks, and we got some questions already. So I'm actually gonna, not gonna quite do a drunken stream yet, as I'm just, like I said, how I got through this weekend was probably, there was a little bit of drinking involved. but needless to say, I'm a bit worn out. If I started drinking right now on top of the loopiness, it would be probably maybe an entertaining stream, but there would definitely not be much entertainment or actual educational value out of it for sure. Mint 20 is coming out next week, as you guys see. I have been doing a lot more Mint videos, mainly because I really like it as a beginning operating system. A lot of the audience of the channel is Windows users coming over to Linux, or more of that new user. So I know there's been a little bit of a transition in some of the content, and I really wanted to appeal to not just do the advanced stuff and stay in Arch and just kind of go through that stuff. Not to say I won't cover Arch-based content, but I just wanted to, I felt like I was going down a rabbit hole, and that's why I kind of got pulled back. And I started doing more of the Mint-based videos and just speaking more to the general public of, coming to Linux, because whether it's Ubuntu, Mint, Pop! OS, I mean, pretty much all the beginning distro spins that people do, you could take these videos and apply them to them. So that's why I do a lot more Mint videos nowadays. It's just a great starting point for a lot of Windows users. Hey, Don's in chat. How you doing, Don? Good seeing you, man. He's usually over on Twitch, but I'll probably do Twitch a little bit after. And if I missed your question, I'm sorry. Sometimes the chat is scrolling, but I'm usually pretty good about reading chat. For those that watched my last live streams, you guys be quiet, okay? But yeah, let's take some questions real fast. I'll go ahead and address the doctor here. What's a good minimal way to manage mounting drives on Arch? I've tried custom D menu scripts that proved tougher than I thought. When it comes to mounting drives on Arch, I kind of go old school in this method. And honestly, whether it's Arch or Debian or pretty much any distribution, I really don't like how a lot of the mounting works. I need to go over, and I'm going to be making a video about systemd auto mounting, which is, probably a newer method of doing it, and most people are on systemd based distribution, so I can easily show people auto mounting, but that's going to be a full video. So let me just go to the desktop and kind of show you real fast. This would probably be the easiest way to do it. And what we'll do is we'll just flip over to new screen and just kind of cat our fstab, because I have a lot of actual drives on this one right here. So I have a lot of different things happening with this. Now, if you're not familiar with fstab, as I call it, it's actually pronounced fstab, as the YouTube comments have let me know time and time again. But at this point, I just like saying fstab. It's just, you know. So anyways, yeah. So there's a couple things with fstab. And it's the actual file system, the mount point, the type, the options, and then the dump and pass. And I'm going to just go through a really abbreviated version of this, just because, you know, most people probably already know this, but if you don't, hey, you might learn something here. Now, the UUID is what you should be using. Some people do something like, you know, they'll be on it and they'll put like dev SDA 1 or something like that, or SDA, and then start doing a mount point to that. Don't do that, because those can change. When you have multiple drives on your system, those can definitely change. So don't do that. Use UUID, and to find that, you can do BLKID. And this actually shows you the UUIDs for all your drives. So I have one labeled games, and if you look right here, that is that UUID, and then I reference it right here. And then the mount point is an actual directory. So if you go to, let's just CD to media, we'll do a long listing. And you'll notice that in my media directory, I have all these different folders, and I've created all these, and they represent drives of one way or another. Now I just do a make directory and then drives, and that's it. So for the games directory, I just do the media games right there. But you'll notice right here, this user, these are the ones that are actually owned by that user. So I do a ch own and, you know, make that user directory. So let's say I have a new drive. I would just go make directory, new drive. And we would need to do that as sudo. And then if we do a listing again, you'll see that new drive on there, but it has root as the user. So we'd want to do a sudo ch own, and then just, you know, assign it Titus, and new drive. And then if we do a listing again, and then it's prepped for basically my user. I log in as Titus, and then I can mount that drive and go even more. So let's go back and to the fstab real fast, just kind of show you, and then I will be done with this tutorial. so you can see right here, that's the mount point, and this is the file system. You know, whatever you format it, most people will probably be ext4. And then for the options, this is where most people get lost. A lot of people just want to throw defaults in there because they see that all the time, but that'll be basically root level access. I like to do for like games and external drives and stuff, I like to do RW for read and write, and then I do a comment, and then I do exec. That means if you have ownership privileges, you can execute stuff in that drive. So when it mounts it, it says, hey, Titus is the owner. He can read, write, and he can execute. And then I usually always, for dump and pass for today's tutorial, just put zeros. 0 space 0. That's all you need to know for cat. So that's the basics of how I do auto mounting in or how I mount my drives. I know that's a little bit more cumbersome, and there's a better way, and I'll probably be doing a video directly over the better way here in a little bit, but that's how I like to do my drives in Linux. No matter what Linux, Arch, Ubuntu, whatever it might is, that's usually how I like to rock. So that's it. I have seen a lot of things. People have been asking me about the Linux kernel, WSL, all those things coming up. And if you're not sure what WSL is, that's Windows Subsystems for Linux. And it's a Windows feature that basically allows Windows users to use Linux as a subsystem, basically is what that is. And it's gone through a couple iterations. Actually, one of my very first videos I've ever done on the channel was that. And it's a really cool thing where you can actually use certain things in that subsystem. The big thing about WSL2, which is coming out in 2004 Windows, that should be out, I believe, this month. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up. But that'll be coming out, and the big thing about it is you can use, you can actually read ext4 drives in Windows is probably the biggest feature. And also if you're in like DevOps and you're a developer, you could actually, use portions of it to actually get around. But it's not really a game changer. There's a lot of overhype and other things that have happened in WSL. So I don't really like making videos about it because I'm just like, it's kind of like a non-starter for me, as most developers might use it. If I'm going to use it, it's mainly just to read an ext4 drive. And if I really wanted to use Linux, I would boot into Linux. I mean, and some people in the Linux community, I think, are a little bit worried that it's going to take over and Windows is now becoming Linux. And no, that's not at all what's happening. WSL2 is basically just a VM, a Linux VM running in Windows. That's the oversimplification. It does have a little bit better tie-ins and things of that nature. Just think of like VMware convergence or whatever that feature is, where it kind of converges the operating system and they have a little bit better interoperability. So that's the difference between WSL and some of the things going on. And Microsoft has done commits in the past to the Linux kernel, so don't freak out about that. A lot of the stuff, again, is a little bit overblown. Seeing DirectX and that type of thing, I'm actually really excited about that. So we'll see what happens. I think a lot of it is just kind of, let's wait and see kind of thing. But I'm not worried about it by any stretch of the imagination. May 28th is when the update comes out for the build 2020 that includes WSL2. Catalyst, thank you. Thank you for the heads up there. Looking for a distro as minimal as up to date as Vanilla Arch. Ooh, I like that. All right, cool. And as stable as Vanilla Debian. Any suggestions? Loggerful in minimal ISO. That's kind of what I did. So you guys all know how I bashed on Ubuntu, and I really haven't, gone out of my way to say anything about like Linux distros or adoption or any of that, where I was really kind of pounding that drum for a while. And when I've got to the point where I'm just like, it's okay. I'm just gonna do as much educational stuff as I can, and we'll see what happens, kind of thing. But I don't run one distro around the house anymore. Every single machine has a different distro, and my main studio PC that I'm on, that I just showed you guys on the file system stuff, that's just a plain Jane Ubuntu server. So I started with Ubuntu server, stripped out like snapd and some of the components of Ubuntu I don't like, and then I just built on top of that. Same principle as Arch. So if you're doing an Arch install, that's basically me doing it with a basic Ubuntu install. And I think I did a video on that earlier. And if anybody's interested, I think that one, I can actually find that video for y'all and link it in chat. But yeah, like I said, I just don't care about my distribution whatsoever. At the end of the day, it's just different package managers and those type of things. But I'll link it in chat, because I know some people were or that. Yeah, here it is. My Ubuntu 20 distribution is awesome. So trolling everybody on this, but here you go. So if you want to see Ubuntu clean build, yeah, here you go. That's the video where I'm taking Ubuntu server and doing a clean build. And if you need the step-by-step, I did this on a live stream, where I did like a 4-hour live stream. Typically on YouTube, I only do 30 minutes to an hour live streams. And then if I still need to do something, I usually cut over to Twitch, as I don't like to do anything longer than an hour on YouTube to appease the algorithm gods of Google. So, yeah. What office are you using, if not LibreOffice? Yeah, so I've done a video on LibreOffice, so I highly encourage LibreOffice. It's completely free and open software. So that's why you always hear it in the Linux community. But out of the gate, it's just not very compatible with Microsoft Office, which causes a lot of problems when you're working in a business environment. So I made an entire, I think like about a 10-minute video about that. But I don't like doing that every time, because you have to get fonts. You have to make sure that it's saving in the proper format, so your Office, cohorts of your Microsoft folks out there are able to read your Office documents. So a lot of times these days, I just say, I'm just gonna use FreeOffice. And FreeOffice is pretty good, but it is proprietary, and it is some of the advanced features like macros and things like that do cost money. So that's the warning there, but I do like the fact that it's basically a Microsoft Office copy. It's so close to Microsoft Office that I'm surprised they haven't gotten sued by Microsoft. That's how close it is. So it just depends on what I'm doing. I still recommend LibreOffice if you can, but if you're really working with a ton of Microsoft people out there, you can do that. Also, OpenOffice is another alternative if you have like a Nextcloud server. OpenOffice can integrate with that, and you can go all completely web. So those are the three things I would say. LibreOffice if you want to stick to strictly FOSS, or OpenOffice if you have like a Nextcloud instance. It is really cool, minimal setup. I really like OpenOffice a lot. And then if you're, let's say you can't be bothered to do any of that, and you just want it to be exactly like Microsoft Office, I'd say FreeOffice. It's proprietary, but they did such a good job copying Microsoft Office that, again, I'm surprised they haven't gotten sued. Thank you so much for the $2 there, RW Bimby. Custom kernel building in the future. I've done some kernel building. A lot of times I just don't have the time. So a lot of people don't realize when building a Linux kernel, usually it takes between 2 and 3 hours on a really good system. So on my 2700s, it would take probably a couple hours to do a full Linux kernel build. So I don't really mess around too much with kernel building. I usually just grab other people's work in binaries and then just try and make sure I say, hey, this is the source for what I'm grabbing if I'm using a custom kernel like Licorice kernel or the Zen kernel. Also, I did a video recently about Chocolatey, and everyone, I think one of the biggest comments I got was, why aren't you talking about WinGet, which is Microsoft's iteration of a package manager in Windows? Chocolatey has been around for many years now. It's not new. I just finally got around to making a video about it. It just so happens that video was scheduled pretty much the same day that WinGet dropped. And WinGet is very new, and it's a bit half-baked. So I would never recommend anybody go run out and use WinGet just yet, because all it really does is get packages, and you can't uninstall packages, you can't update packages through it. It's not a very good system, and I'm hoping Microsoft builds on that and it becomes decent. But their package manager that they just released is them kind of emulating Linux in some way and trying to create a decent package manager. But the package manager they have right now sucks. So still use Chocolatey. I'm not going to make a WinGet video just to get views, because it's a horrible software right now. Hopefully they build on it and it can do uninstall, it can do updates, it can do all the stuff that Chocolatey already does. And then maybe do it, but it feels weird. It does. It feels like Windows is totally just copying Linux at this point with the package manager. But that's why I think a lot of people have said that about WinGet and Chocolatey. I made the Chocolatey video on purpose. I knew WinGet came out, but Chocolatey still leaps and bounds better. Steven, thanks for the super chat. A replacement for MSI Afterburner in Linux? It's a good question. I get asked that quite a bit. Afterburner is used for a lot of different things. You can do undervolting if you don't want to use as much power and you want to be a little more efficient. And you can also do overclocking, of course, for Afterburner. And when it comes to those types of utilities in Linux, I haven't had a need to really dump into that for a while. There are utilities that exist. I just haven't really dived into that topic in quite some time. I was using some utilities that weren't great back in 2017, I think it was, when I was doing a lot of crypto mining. But like I said, I haven't touched that in years, so I don't have a good replacement. I don't know of a good replacement yet, Steven, for that. And someone, when the stream first started up, was asking about dual booting and what's a good dual boot solution, because Windows is breaking a lot of dual boots, apparently. You can still do dual booting. I would recommend probably adding the Linux partition or the Linux drive in the actual Windows bootloader, and just boot to Windows bootloader is probably the easiest method to making sure Windows doesn't break your stuff. I like Grub because you can really make a really awesome login manager, and also, well, not a login manager, but a really awesome bootloader. You know, theme, you can theme it out, you can do all kinds of stuff. But if not, you can always use the Windows boot manager and do the same thing. And I've done many videos over the Windows boot manager. You can, I think there's a free software called EasyBCD. You can use that one, but there's other ones that exist to modify the Windows boot manager, and that's the easiest way to add that partition to make sure Windows doesn't break your stuff, or if it does, you just relaunch that Windows-based program in Windows and it just adds Linux back in. So thanks so much for the super chat there, Paul L. Do you have a Gopher site? I do not. And I always get asked this question too. Do you think Mint is better than Fedora? What distribution are you running? You know what? Yeah, and I've answered this a lot of different ways in the past. And it's a question that everyone asks when it comes to distributions. So I'm going to walk you guys through my distributions. So I have Mint. I have Pop! OS on the stream. I have Ubuntu Server right here on the studio. I have Manjaro inside. Then I have a vanilla Arch machine. And then on my laptop, I'm using Clear Linux. And here's my rule. I don't want to use one distribution more than once on any machine. So every machine I have has a different distribution, and the reason why I do this is I want to know if I make instructions for something that it's more universal and not so granular or tied right into a distribution. When I had 3 systems running an Arch-based system, I had inside Manjaro, and then I had Arch and Arch for both these systems. A lot of my tutorials missed a little of the Debian-based stuff, so I made sure to just spread it around so I hit everything. But everyone always wonders which one's the best one. And if you have to ask, I'm just going to say, Linux Mint, that's what you should get. Install it. If you have to ask, install Linux Mint. Because that's where I think is the easiest place to start. It has a very intuitive system. It's super easy, and you can learn the basics. And once you learn the basics, try to edit and modify things and just start changing things around and get to the point where you're going, okay, I get what I'm at now. And then you can just switch to whatever you want, but no distribution's better. One distribution's not better than the other. It doesn't exist. And there are no bad distributions. There are no good distributions. They're all just tools. And that's kind of how I treat them now. Oh, thanks, James. Much appreciated for the super chat, man. Yeah, so I mean, their distributions are starting points. I don't say distributions don't matter anymore. I meant it when I said that video, and I stopped with all the adoption slang and marketing ploys, because at the end of the day, I'm just a technician. I just fix things, and that's my passion. That's what I love doing, and that's why I was just like, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother with all the politics and weirdness you get with the communities and tribalism. I think there's a lot of tribalism around distributions, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. What is the blue computer behind you? That right there is the stream PC. So I wanted something kind of cool, but all the components in it are old. So I'm using a first gen Ryzen, and then I have just a regular old stuff. Everything in there is budget. I don't do anything anything high priced here. I'm super cheap. That's a kind way of saying that. Oh, Liquid Lego. Thanks for the super chat. This is sad. I have to talk about this now that I can't dodge this question. Any thoughts about League of Legends and Linux after 2021? More info here. Yeah, I know. I don't even click it. I already know this one. This is a sad one. League of Legends is going to kernel-based DRM, and they did not say anything about Linux capabilities. And basically what that means is League of Legends is going to stop working as soon as the new DRM is, or anti-cheat, I guess is probably a better way of saying it. When the new anti-cheat goes into League of Legends, it will cease functioning on Linux. And this is like the biggest sticking point, and something I hate talking about, but probably a good thing to talk about, is anti-cheat really is excluding a lot of Linux gaming. It's almost like a backward step, as everything's gotten a lot better with Linux gaming and compatibility. Every old game I can play, great. But anti-cheat, ooh, it's one of those things that's really, really rough. So it's one of those things we got to keep watching on. I try to tell everyone, keep pressure on the publishers. If they do like a de novo DRM or an anti-cheat, like easy anti-cheat, I try not to support those publishers. I try not to give them any money, and I try to encourage everyone else to not give them money. As once these publishers start seeing an effect with their pocketbook by making some of these decisions, that they'll probably reverse course, and hopefully we get like 100% capabilities. So that's one of the biggest things about it. And honestly, a lot of these anti-cheat are not very effective. Like say Warzone. You guys have seen on some of my live streams, I've played Call of Duty Warzone using like Moonlight. The Moonlight project is game streaming to another box that's running Windows that I can just stream the game, so I never have to leave Linux to play those Windows games. And that is fine, but that game has been hacked to death. I mean, there's a ton of cheating in it, and you can just do Warzone cheats in YouTube and get a whole host of content of people hacking these games. So I'm just not sold easy anti-cheat or any of these anti-cheats really do anything but give you worse performance for you Windows users out there. And for us Linux users, make us to say, you know what, your game sucks, I'm not gonna buy it. So that's my thoughts. Thanks. Because of you, I can switch to Linux. That's awesome. I love getting those comments. Every time I hear that, I just like warms my heart. Can you install the same apps in Mint as in Ubuntu, like PPAs and stuff? Yeah. Mint 19 is based off Ubuntu. You can do PPAs. Now there is an LMDE, which is a Debian-based version of Mint, and you cannot use PPAs with that. But basically, what PPAs do is just add repository, and usually there's those repositories you can add, and they are universal, and they'll be fine. But I don't use PPAs on Debian edition of Linux Mint. So yes and no. Depends on the version of Mint, whether or not you can do that. Any thoughts on font preferences? Google Roboto is my favorite font. Any suggestions on mounting a NAS on Linux systems? Silly Simon, at the very beginning of the stream, I didn't touch on it, but I'll show you real fast. You can go into right here. You can see the NAS. So this is actually a NAS box. This is an image share, and then it mounts it directly to the mount point. It uses CIFS, so it's an SMB share, but it uses the CIFS file system. Credentials, you normally would put like username and password, but I don't believe putting in credentials into FS tab is a good thing. So I created something in the root folder called server creds, and then I only have root privileges to access that. So if you're not running as root, you can't see my credentials. And if I'm actually streaming and I do a cat of FS tab, I'm not going to give out my username and password. and then I assign the UID, that's my user ID, to it, and then I usually set IO chipset UTF-8 and version 2. This is mainly for compatibility on an SMB share, and then that's it. So the options are really what get most people when doing a share. But good question. Really good question, man. Oh, Linus Torvalds now has an AMD Threadripper CPU. I actually have something I thought about doing as far as a video coming up about Intel versus AMD, as everyone's like touting AMD, and I love AMD. Almost my stuff's AMD, and I really just thought, hey, it's awesome. AMD's actually producing a good CPU with Ryzen, but I still buy Intel every once in a while for work. So I still have a day job, and I still use Intel almost exclusively at work. Why, pray tell, would you get worse performance and a worse bang for buck? And why would you waste my business's money buying Intel chips when you can get better performance out of AMD for a cheaper price? It's a good question. I'm glad you asked. and really, it's more about stability and reliability. Intel still beats AMD for stability and reliability, but it is a horrible cost ratio, so it's not great for what you get out of the amount of money you spend for an Intel chip. And I'm totally okay saying AMD's number one. And if you're a home user out there, what chip should you buy? I'm saying AMD every time. But for business, I still do Intel just because of the stability and reliability of it, even though I really hate Intel and some of the shady things they've done to me in the past. The fact that they switch their chipsets so often with every generation, and the fact I have to go out and buy a new motherboard with every single chip is ridiculous. The fact right there, I'm using a 3rd gen Ryzen on a 1st gen Ryzen board means I just saved $150. Thanks, AMD. And I can't really do that with Intel. Every single iteration of Intel is canned. So I guess actually I just gave out the whole too long didn't watch of that video. So I probably won't make that video now, but that's why I still buy some Intel, and why AMD is just killing it right now, because they do have a great cost to performance. It's just fantastic. I highly recommend AMD. It's just, I buy it for here at the house, but not in my business. And I think someone actually asked earlier about that too, about using YouTube strictly as an income source, and it's weird. I still love. There's certain things about YouTube I hate, but it's not like what everyone else complains about. Like the AdSense and stuff, I think is great. I mean, I have no complaints about Google's revenue sharing and that type of stuff. I think, hey, it's great, and I love the fact I can talk to all of you free. I can upload my videos free. It's great. Yes, it's on Google proprietary servers and all the other shenanigans people complain about, but I have my backups. I don't trust them. And honestly, I am syncing over to LBRY. So if you do fall in that camp and you hate Google, totally get it. Watch my stuff on LBRY. And if you don't, then by all means, you can just, oh no. I think my phone heard Google and then it started spying on me. Yeah, there's that too. But you can easily, I have no qualms about that. But as far as full-time, like supporting my family and that type of thing off of YouTube, it's a difficult pill. I've talked about health insurance, and here in the States, that's one consideration. The other consideration is I really don't like a lot of, it's hard to find a really good sponsor. There's certain people that really, to make a living on YouTube, you have to have really crappy sponsors. Sometimes, I mean, you get big enough and then finally you can just be like, yes, you, and you. I like all you guys. You can be a sponsor. If I ever get that big, cool. But for my size, to make a living, a lot of times you'd be like doing like Raid Shadow Legends, the crappiest mobile game on earth. Come check it out. Click on the little link and I get paid $5 or whatever it might be. And then some of the other sponsors, I get a ton of sponsor emails, and in dealing with that, a lot of the sponsors, I just don't like their products, or it's not something that I would endorse, and I just won't do that. So it's hard to do a full-time income because I just don't have really any real great sponsors. So yes, I'm still working a day job. I will for the foreseeable future. Eventually I might not and go to more of a live stream / video making type of thing, because I technically could probably do this 100% of the time. It's just right now, I mean, it's I still like my job. I guess I'm institutionalized in that regard. Can you motivate the stability and reliability? Isn't it 100% stable as long as you don't overclock RAM too wildly? Can you motivate that stability? I mean, it's not like AMD's unstable. It's just Intel. It's splitting hairs. We're talking like 1% of stability. We're talking in the top echelon between the AMD and Intel debate there, Peter. Intel just edges out AMD just ever so slightly in the long run. But again, I'm a very, very different use case when I'm doing this, because some of my systems I will run for 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, I do have some systems that are past a decade that I'm still running. And I don't do any overclocking. I don't do any of the hot rodding. So a lot of YouTube channels do that, and they have like the latest and greatest, and they're always overclocking and just pushing those benchmarks because it's incredibly entertaining to watch. But for me, whenever I have a system, I like to baby that system, and I like to set it up in a way that it'll go for 5 to 10 years at least. So when I'm talking stability and reliability, we are talking completely different numbers and completely different game than what most people are talking. Because my systems and computers, I do treat all the way till the end. And honestly, I've had 5-year systems that I've resold. So I don't keep any old electronics. I usually resell them, and I usually take really good care of them. And another video I think I was thinking about making, but it kind of doesn't fit into the actual channel, so I'll just do it on the live stream here. You guys tell me in chat, what do you think about this? I really hate water cooling. I think water cooling is the biggest scam, waste of money in the world. And I know people are going to probably throw tomatoes at me for saying this, but really, I mean, why? I get it. It's a good art piece. Like it's like painting a picture, because some of water cooling is just phenomenal. Cool looking. But from an actual practical standpoint, it serves almost zero purpose. You go with a good aftermarket Noctua CPU fan, you're going to achieve near water cooling temps, and honestly, way more reliability. You don't have to worry about pumps. You don't have to worry about all the crap flushing that radiator and flushing all your system like once every year or two. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just make sure the fan's spinning. I mean, it just blows my mind that water cooling is thought of. I got a text message from a buddy of mine. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to do water cooling." And I'm like, "No. Why? Do you want to just throw $1,000 down the tubes? Because that's what you're doing. You're just throwing it away. Why do it?" I mean, I get it. It looks cool, but that's all it has going for it. So that's why. And most people do it really like crappy. Like, if I could get like Jay's 2 cents to water cool something, and somebody that's like an artist at computer building, yeah, I would take that any day of the week. That would be awesome, because he'd like Dremel out all the tools and make it look awesome, and then he'd do all the custom bins, and it would just be amazing. But most people aren't Jay's 2 cents. Most people aren't all these big YouTubers that have been doing it for years and years and years and have like the art form crafted, because it is an art form. And all you're doing is wasting just crap tons of money and throwing it down the tubes. You know, pun intended. So yeah, air cooling is amazing. Just stick with air cooling and fans, guys. Don't waste your money, because I'm not gonna do it. So I mean, might still make that video, although God, the downvotes. Oh, I'll still do it. I don't care. It's still fun. Can you play Krunker in live stream? It's a browser-based FPS game. Oh, that's good. I'll have to Google that, Caesar. I might do a more community live stream. I like to do it mainly over on Twitch just because it's a little bit of a smaller crowd and a little easier to maintain chat. Scott C. I'm getting settled in a Linux Mint. Once I get comfortable on the technical side, what distro should I go to? Or get on the bleeding edge? Well, so, Scott, here's the thing. I think you should pimp out that Linux Mint. Why do you need to switch distros? Don't switch distros just to switch. Change it out. So like that whole gaming video, I switched out the kernel, switched out the drivers, switched out everything. I mean, at that point, my Linux Mint machine back there, it's running pretty much like my Arch machine. I mean, really, there's a couple differences between the two, sure. Some of the actual packages, but I mean, most of the packages were replaced that I'm utilizing. And I want to use that functionality, and I still get some of the stability from using the LTS release. So, I don't know. I mean, I just say tinker with it, man. That's one of the things. Play around with your distros and change them. All my distros look the same. So I said to everybody at the beginning, hey, I have 5 or 6 different distros across the house here. I have Pop, I have Mint, I have Ubuntu, I have Arch, I have Manjaro, I have Clear Linux. They all look exactly the same, and they perform exactly the same, and they have exactly the same packages. I forgot to mention that portion of it. So when I say what distribution or should I switch to and all, I'm like, man, just pimp out whatever distribution you're on. I don't care what I'm on. At the end of the day, it all looks the same to me. Do you have advanced Samba video scheduling? Yes, Catalyst, I did. Someone mentioned that I think on a Twitch stream, and I put that in my build. I haven't produced it yet, as I've actually been away. That's why I got like this. I've been camping for the past 4 days, so I'll probably end up shaving. I just don't like beards. It always ends up scratchy, and I'm like, look like a hobo, but that's okay. That, and it kind of comes in white, and then I end up looking like I'm 50 years old. The title of your last is not entirely incorrect. If you only set up NVIDIA for AMD, you need to do a few more things. You really need the latest drivers for Navi. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to look back through that, Peter. Oh, for ACO. Yeah, I didn't touch ACO on that, Peter. Mesa ACO is a new compiler, which NVIDIA probably should start using relatively soon, because AMD's still using it, and they're killing it in performance. So if you're a Linux user and you got an AMD GPU using Mesa ACO, which I did a video on Mesa ACO in the past, which is great. So the compilers right now, most people are using LLVM. And once it swaps completely over to ACO, and NVIDIA users will use them, AMD users are already using them if they're using these Mesa ACO drivers, which are able to utilize the ACO compiler. Yeah, there's a big performance jump. So that's really exciting. I think it was, what was it? Linux gaming is better than Windows, or something clickbaity like that. And that definitely is the case, because that compiler is amazing. It is completely amazing, and that's what I went over in that video. And I was like, hey, look at this. This is a Windows-based game that's literally getting just as much FPS in Linux than it is in Windows. That's pretty amazing. So I love that, but yeah. Are there negative effects in performance having 4 to 5 tiling window managers installed? Bruno, no. A lot of people conflate window managers and desktop environments. Desktop environments is like this massive package of just all the stuff. You got utilities, you got built-in applications that desktop environment wants you to use. You have the window manager, you have just a whole host of things where window managers are just that, window managers. There's not really much that goes with the window manager. So you can install 4 or 5, no problem, and see no performance decrease. because they're not running all at the same time. When you're booting, you're usually booting into one or the other. I always use Awesome Window Manager. That's when I'm running all my distributions. Typically, I'm always on Awesome Window Manager. That's why it always looks the same, which, you know, it's great. It's a very, very slim. Actually, Awesome's considered a bulky window manager, but I used Windows for 20 years. Everything seems lightweight these days. Do you know YouTube DL utility for Linux Windows? It's an awesome utility. You should give it a try. Yeah, Thomas. I think another Linux YouTuber did a video over YouTube-DL, and guess what? He got blacklisted or he got demonetized. So as much as I'd love to go over that utility, I can't actually talk in public on YouTube about that utility because it's technically a terms of service breach. So I don't have an official comment on it, but it's pretty awesome. That's the unofficial. It is an awesome utility. I want to go to Ubuntu 20.04 when I do this. How would you go about doing it? Upgrade from 18.04 or start from scratch? No, just do a dist upgrade. So yeah, there's no reason to reinstall. I hate reinstalling a distro. Yeah, you can do it on library. Thoughts on the TKG kernel? Yeah, TKG is awesome. I think TK glitch is what he's talking about. It's a different spin of, you know how I've talked about Glorious Egg Rolls Proton version. TKG has a really good one. TKG is more geared towards, or TK glitch is more geared towards Arch-based users. All his binaries and precompiled packages are usually Arch-based. So if you're on an Arch system, TK glitch, I highly recommend. But as he actually has more stuff than Glorious Egg Rolls, but it's Arch only. So I really don't talk about TKG just because it's one of those Arch only packages for the most part. And you can build it for Debian, but it's a more complex thing and beyond most normal users. So that's why I don't talk about TKG that much, as most of the stuff that Glorious Egg Roll uses is actually downstream from TKG, or he's using a lot of his optimizations. Is Deepened distro safe? Yeah, Deepened's safe. It had a little bit of thing, I think it was made in China, and there was a concern about like reporting of some sort, but I think a lot of that was unfounded, and there wasn't anything I could see to where they were actually reporting back to some nefarious server somewhere and recording user actions. I forget what exactly was the article that came out about Deepened, but I like Deepened, and even though I don't use it, I didn't see any warrant for a lot of the hate it gets. I think it's a beautiful desktop environment, and I don't really see much that is an issue with Deepened. Yeah, do release upgrade. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, you're right. All right, let's see here. I'm just gonna make sure I didn't miss any like super chats here. All right, nope, I'm all good. Caught up. I've actually watched chat pretty good this stream. So, all right, well, sweet. I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day. Like I said, I had a really fun time camping. It was a blast, even though it was a bit hot and a bit difficult to sleep at night. So if I'm a little groggy on this stream or something was a little off, usually that's just me not having very much sleep for consecutive nights. You know, I had a really good time. I will continue streaming over on Twitch, as I usually stream Monday, Friday. I missed this Monday morning as I was driving back from the campsite, but I will continue over there. So I'll start that up in about 10 minutes. It's about 3:49 my time, and I'll start that up here in about 10 minutes for that. I'll close down the stream, swap everything over, disable all the YouTube shenanigans, and start streaming over on Twitch. And we'll probably just do more of a chill hangout. Not as many people as I really kind of dig the more chill streams, but that's usually my jam. And I will answer your question real fast. Ben Rico, did you see the news regarding Valve releasing a censored client for China? Interesting. I have not seen that news. I don't cover too much of the news, though, so I usually leave that for the other folks. Unless it's something really, really good, and then I might cover it. In what game were you camping? You've seen my FPS skills. That's every game, sir. But thank you guys again. Thank you for all the support. Like I said, I'll definitely continue the 4 days a week. A little update here at the end. As far as the YouTube channel goes, I'm definitely continue more of the educational approach. I really dig that. I addressed a little bit of going full-time. Probably will happen, but that would probably be after I leave my main job. And right now, I still enjoy going in, and I still enjoy the couple days a week that I'm there. So as long as if that changes, then I'll probably do full-time. I wouldn't say full-time YouTube, but full-time content creation, whether that's website, that. Technically, I probably would really start really kicking in like book writing, things like that. I don't necessarily would want to make more videos than I make right now, but definitely putting more times for writing a complete book, as it's something I've been doing for 6 months, and I wanted to tie in. I've made about 500 videos, and I wanted to tie in every single video in a complete structured book, and I wouldn't make it expensive. A lot of technical books I find suck, and I wanted to make something completely unique to where you could read it, and if you understood what was in the written word, you could just go right through. But if you didn't, there'd be like 2 or 3 videos that I've already made that you could reference. So all the knowledge is already out there. So if you've already watched all 500 videos of mine, which that's probably like 5 or 6 of you guys in chat, but what I would say is that's why that's one of the things I would do probably. As I don't believe in master classes, I don't believe in a lot of the traditional stuff about YouTube. I think it's a good platform to talk to everybody, but at the same time, it's all about delivering value to you, because that's the biggest thing. I want everyone to be able to learn things and expand their skill set. So I probably definitely would just want to continue that, because I love that. So thank you guys again for watching, and I will start streaming here in about 5 minutes now. Jeez. All right, grab a little snack, and then I'll be over on Twitch. I'll go ahead and link in chat that as well. It's twitch.tv Chris Titus Tech. Is AMD CPUs fully supported on Linux? Yes, they are. I use AMDs everywhere. So both AMD and Intel fully supported. So, but yes, thanks again for the live stream. Again, once a month here on YouTube. But if you like this live stream and you like a lot more of the interaction content, I do live stream over on Twitch Monday and Friday. I'm going to continue over there here in a short bit. And with that, I'll see y'all later. It's a little odd. I still got to work on the outro. I've been live streaming for a whole year and I still don't know how to say goodbye. Thanks, guys.